Discover the incredible truth behind ultra-processed foods. 7 life-changing revelations exposed. Jane's heart raced as she folded the last load of laundry before dawn. The clock blared the familiar 4:30 a.m. chime, shaking her from the haze of sleep. She glanced at the 2 little faces still snuggled under the covers, Timmy, aged 6, and his older sister, Lily, who was already a wise 8. Each morning was a routine, but today felt different. Today, an invisible weight hung in the air, urging her to make a change. She slid into her well-worn sneakers and whispered a quiet promise to herself. After juggling breakfast prep, packing school lunches, and racing out to the diner for her early shift, Jane greeted Mr. Thompson, the retired teacher, with a warm smile. "The usual?" she asked as he settled into his favorite booth. Breakfasts at the Maplewood Diner were filled with laughter, but Jane couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at her heart. With bills piling up and groceries dwindling, she resorted to cheap, processed meals for her children, choices she wished she could change. Later, as the sun warmed the sky, a familiar pang of worry twisted in Jane's stomach. It was always the same cycle: cheap food, high prices, and endless parental stress. Today, that cycle would shatter. After school, Timmy stumbled through the door, a shadow of his usual self, before collapsing on the living room floor. Panic engulfed Jane as she rushed to her son, her mind racing. Was it something he ate? As Timmy curled into unconsciousness, doctors rushed in and out. "Focus on nutrition," they advised. Those words echoed, gripping Jane like a vice. She hadn't just failed to nourish her kids, she had failed as a mother. Determined, she set out to uncover the truth about food in her community. As the weeks rolled on, Jane dug deep. She spoke with Gary, the gruff yet kind-hearted veteran farmer, whose weathered hands held the secret of real sustenance. "Food shouldn't be a luxury," he said, his eyes glistening as he shared stories about the land. Then she met Marjorie, a spirited neighbor with a fierce sense of tradition. Together, they delved into family recipes filled with love but shadowed by despair. Jane's heart ached. The conversations grew heated during family gatherings, her mother defending the comfort of convenience foods as Jane raged against them. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With newfound resolve, Jane envisioned a community dinner food that celebrated love, health, and togetherness. As neighbors streamed in, the buoyant atmosphere brimmed with laughter, rekindling old friendships over glorious dishes that tasted like home. Yet, just as joy bubbled to the surface, a text from Timmy's teacher broke her heart anew: a sickness outbreak linked to processed meals at school. The truth loomed heavy, threatening to drown her hard-won hope. Standing before her community, Jane braced herself. The fight wasn't just for her family, it was for every struggling mother in Maplewood. Would they rise together against the tide of ultra-processed food? As eyes filled with worry met hers, one question hung thick in the air: was change truly within their grasp? Jane stood frozen, the text still glowing on her phone. Voices around her dulled into a low hum as anxiety gripped her heart. Each worried face in the crowd reflected fears she held deep within. The community dinner she envisioned felt suddenly fragile. She needed their support more than ever, yet the thought of confronting the ugly truth about food made her stomach twist. "Ladies and gentlemen," she finally spoke, her voice wavering but full of purpose. "We all know how much we care for our children. We feed them what we can afford, but what if that's not enough anymore? What if those foods we trust are actually harming them?" Murmurs swept through the group, a wave of disbelief washing over their expressions. "What do you mean, Jane?" piped up Marjorie, her eyes narrowing in concern. "You're scaring me. Our children have always eaten school lunches." Jane clasped her hands, searching for the right words. I just got a text from Timmy's teacher. There's been an outbreak linked to processed meals at school. I can't let this happen again. I can't be helpless. Processed meals? Mr. Thompson shook his head, confusion deepening the lines on his forehead. But they're convenient. What's wrong with a little quick meal every now and then? She met his gaze, heart pounding. They may not be just convenient. They can be dangerous. Our kids deserve better. We deserve better. The crowd shifted, some whispering amongst themselves, others shaking their heads. But Jane didn't back down. She felt a fire igniting inside her, a passion she never anticipated. It was a moment to harness anxiety and transform it into action. We need to work together. Let us support one another. How do we find alternatives? Let us educate ourselves on what we feed our kids. Silence fell as her words settled in. There was uncertainty, but beneath it lay a flicker of hope. She spotted Lily, her daughter's big, curious eyes wide with concern. Jane swallowed hard, allowing herself to imagine a world where everything changed, where their family thrived on wholesome food instead of microwave meals. Desperate to shift the emotion in the room, she added, "We can start small. We could organize workshops, community gardens, or even cooking classes right here at the diner." A murmur of agreement spread across the audience, and a few nods signaled emerging support. Jane caught Marjorie's eye, who smiled approvingly, her earlier anxiety fading. A voice from the back called out, "What about involving the schools? They need to know." Groans of agreement echoed, "Yes. We need to protect the kids." Jane's spirit soared. Just moments ago, she worried that her community might not stand with her, but here they were, uniting over a common cause. The energy shifted, buzzing with determination. Together, they could confront their fears, challenge the system, and demand better options. As the room lit up with laughter and enthusiasm, Jane soaked in the warmth around her. It felt like a second chance for families to reclaim their health. Yet, beneath that hopeful horizon, a shadow loomed. She remembered Timmy, still recovering, grappling with the lingering effects of the very food meant to nourish him. Was it enough, this evening of promise? Could they truly create the change needed? As she gazed around the room, doubt seeped in. Jane's resolve strengthened. They were strong together, but they had a long battle ahead to fight for health and well-being. The night was still young, but Jane couldn't shake the feeling that the impending storm loomed closer with every step they took. Would their resolve withstand the pressure? As the discussion began to swell, another message dinged from her phone. Timmy's teacher was reaching out again, and Jane's heart skipped. What now? Jane's hands trembled slightly as she retrieved her phone from her pocket. The flashing screen felt like a weight pressing against her heart. With one deep breath, she opened the message, hoping it wouldn't bring more bad news. "Jane, I think you should know about another incident at school. Several children are still experiencing upset stomach and headaches. I believe we need to consider the meals they're consuming more seriously. Please call me when you can." The room around her erupted into a flurry of ideas. Voices blended into a cocktail of hopes, fears, and possibilities. Still, the haunting echoes of what she just read threatened to drown it out. Timmy's health was still a question mark, and it haunted every thought she had. Let us get this rolling. We could partner with local farmers. Someone shouted, snapping her back to the present. Imagine fresh vegetables served every school lunch. Another voice chimed in, what if we start a food co-op? We can help each other cook healthy meals. The energy crackled like magic in the air, yet Jane felt a tug of urgency. Wait. This is wonderful, but we need to address the cause behind this issue: the food itself. It's not just about what we're serving in our homes. It's about what's served at school and why. Her voice rose, punctuating each word with a sense of urgency. That's right. The food can't just be convenient anymore. A man yelled from the back, his face lighting up with determination. The murmurs turned into chants of agreement. Jane's heart soared with hope. This was where it began. Perhaps she wasn't alone in this after all. But fear gnawed at her heart, the fear for her son and for the other families. If our children are struggling, we need to confront this in a substantial way. Marjorie approached her slowly, concern pooling in her bright eyes. Jane, do you think we have enough information on what the school is serving? Can we really take on a whole educational system? Jane glanced around the room. Everyone seemed to be hanging on the edge of her words. This isn't just about lunch, it's about our kids' future. We need to research together. Find out what's really in these meals. What additives? What preservatives? As she spoke, the weight of her words seemed to settle in. Each eye reflected a battle of skepticism and hope. Could they really take on such a daunting task? The crowd fell quiet. Then, she saw movement in the corner. Someone was waving their hand. It was Lily, her daughter's friend, a small girl with bright pigtails and a fierce spirit. Can we also learn how to grow our own food? She asked innocently. Then we can eat what we want. A collective chuckle filled the room, but the laughter held a new energy. Jane felt the lightness shift into something deeper. Exactly. We can turn our backyard gardens into food for our tables. And workshops can teach us how to cook it all. The crowd erupted again, ideas firing back and forth, but Jane's mind spiraled back to Timmy. Would they really be able to influence the school menu? Could they change how their kids were fed? Just then, the ding of her phone cut through the noise again. Another message from Timmy's teacher. Jane bit her lip, dread creeping back in. I'm sorry, she said, raising a finger lightly. I need to read this. Everyone quieted in anticipation as she opened the message. Her heart raced. What if it was worse than before? Her breathing sharpened, and she braced herself. What she read made her blood run cold. Timmy's health continues to be a concern, and we fear he might worsen. We need to discuss emergency action. Jane's stomach dropped. The stakes were rising, and she felt the frost of dread encroaching on her newfound hope. Could they truly change anything in time? Jane. Lily's voice broke through the tension, tiny and wavering. Are you okay? Jane looked at her daughter's friend. Thanks to you all, we can be okay, she replied, forcing a smile, though uncertainty lined her brow. Let us see what we can uncover together. But deep down, Jane feared the answer was just the beginning of much bigger storms to come. What would be the price of their efforts? The room buzzed with an energy Jane had never felt before. Ideas floated in conversational currents, mixing hope and apprehension. She could sense the determination among the parents, but they were walking into unknown territory. As she looked out at the crowd, she saw hearts eager to change, yet dark clouds of fear threatened to overshadow that ambition. Let us form a committee. Marjorie suggested, her voice cutting through the chatter. We can meet weekly, gather data, talk to nutritionists. Yes. Someone else added, and reach out to other schools. We have to see if they face similar issues. Jane nodded, feeling a swell of purpose wash over her. But in the back of her mind, Timmy's name echoed like a drumbeat, drowning out every other thought. With each plan hashed out, she wondered, would it be enough? Would they be able to change the course of their children's well-being? Okay, so who's ready to dig in? Jane said, trying to rally the room. Let us gather information on what's being served and the health impacts of those meals. We need to get to the root of the problem. Someone shouted from the back, what about a petition? We could get parents and kids to sign it. Show the school board we mean business. Excitement surged again. Maybe they could actually rally enough support. But the gnawing anxiety about Timmy wouldn't leave Jane alone. She imagined the troubled faces of other children, each one possibly suffering silently, just like her son. What if they were too late? What if, in their quest for answers, they stumbled upon more than they ever expected? Can we also have kids involved? Lily asked, her voice sweet but firm. They should know why food matters. The room murmured in agreement. Jane smiled a little, recognizing the innocence and the wisdom in Lily's suggestion. Yes. Let us involve the kids. They need to know how to advocate for themselves and their needs, Jane replied, pushing aside her doubts. We can host workshops that teach them about nutrition, cooking, and even gardening. They'll be our strongest allies. The atmosphere throbbed with excitement as more voices jumped in, brainstorming names for the initiative. Jane felt a spark. Here was something powerful. This wasn't just about food, it was about community, about mothers and fathers bonded together for their children's future. It was about taking their fears and transforming them into something beautiful and constructive. As the meeting wrapped up, they organized their first gathering at her home the following week. Tears stung the corners of her eyes. For the first time in ages, hope flickered faintly, like the first light peeking over a dark horizon. Later that night, Jane sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open to a search for local nutritionists. The screen glowed in the dim light, but her thoughts remained heavy. As she sifted through information, that urgent message loomed in her mind. Did Timmy's teachers see the same potential to improve? Or had they already lost the battle? Her phone buzzed on the table, bringing her heart to her throat. It was another message from the school. She hesitated for a moment, fear coiling in her stomach as she prepared to read the words. What now? Determined, she picked it up, her breath caught in her chest. Could this be a turning point? Or would it push her further into a storm she wasn't prepared for? In that moment of anticipation, she realized something crucial: the conversation was shifting. Maybe they could do something profoundly powerful. But would they be ready for what the truth might reveal? Jane's hands shook as she pressed the notification on her phone. The school's principal had sent a video message. The preview showed a concerned expression on his face, and her heart sank. Why was he reaching out now? The video loaded, and Jane's breath quickened. The principal's voice, usually calm and composed, was heavy with an urgency she had never heard before. Dear parents, he began, I want to address recent concerns regarding our lunch programs. I assure you, we are aware of the situation. He paused, tension palpable. But we need your help. Her pulse raced. What does that mean? She whispered to herself, the words echoing loudly in her empty kitchen. He continued, urging parents to come forward with their experiences and data about the meals their children consumed. Our priority is to ensure every child is healthy and happy, but we cannot address this alone. We must work together. Juggling her emotions, Jane felt an unexpected wave of resolve wash over her. The invitation to collaborate was a lifeline. She could reach out to the school board with the evidence they gathered and form the kind of change they were envisioning. It was validation, a spark in the darkness. But then the principal's gaze turned serious again. There will be a meeting next month regarding the school's nutrition policies. It's crucial we have a comprehensive understanding by then. Shutting her eyes, Jane listened closely as he detailed how the school hoped to involve parents more, bringing voices into the conversation that had been too quiet for too long. Once the video ended, Jane sat silently, her mind racing. If they could gather enough information before the meeting, could they really spark change? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Just then, the faint sound of laughter drifted from the living room. Timmy was playing video games with Lily, their laughter breaking through her uncertainty. Jane walked into the room, where she saw the glint of joy in his eyes and the pure, unfiltered happiness of childhood. It ignited a fire in her, the reason she needed to fight. Timmy? She called gently. He looked up, pausing his game. How's school been lately? He shrugged, his smile fading slightly. It's okay, I guess, the food is weird though. What do you mean weird? Jane knelt down to his level, her heart heavy with concern. Like, sometimes it just tastes funny. And I feel hungry again really quick. Her chest tightened. Timmy was one of many. She had to do something. They had to make this better, not just for him, but for everyone. With newfound determination, she returned to her laptop, ready to jot down notes, guaranteed plans for the next gathering, and a strategy for how to approach the school board. The meeting was only weeks away, and they needed every second to make this count. She started typing furiously, her mind full of ideas. But what struck her most was the urgency to convey to the other parents what was truly happening behind the scenes. They had to understand the truth about what their kids were eating. As she outlined the workshop subjects for the children, Jane felt a sense of clarity wash over her. They could arm their kids with knowledge, create a movement, and turn the tide on the decision-makers. Imagine the impact. Just as Jane began to feel the thrill of possibility, the phone buzzed again. It was a group chat notification from the parents. Usually, it filled her with trepidation, but tonight, it felt different. What news awaited her? Was it closer to a breakthrough, or yet another complication? Heart pounding, she opened the thread. Would this be the moment that opened the door to real change, or would it deepen the fog of uncertainty? The words on the screen hit Jane like a ton of bricks. Discover the incredible truth behind ultra-processed foods, 7 life-changing revelations exposed. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the group chat, feeling an electric pull of anticipation. What could be so monumental that it got everyone buzzing? She clicked on the message, drowning out the sound of Timmy and Lily's laughter in the background. The upbeat tone of the group set a sharp contrast to the apprehensions swirling in her mind. What revelations were waiting for her? As she scrolled through the messages, excitement intertwined with anxiety. Parents were sharing links to articles, videos, and personal stories about their children's experience with school lunches. There were screen grabs from other parents discussing strange after-lunch behaviors, frantic energy spikes, mood swings, and complaints of stomach cramps. Each message stoked the fire of urgency within her. Has anyone looked into what foods are being served? One parent questioned. It's not just the taste, my kid has been really lethargic after lunch. Could it be the food? Jane's heart raced. This wasn't just about taste, this was about health, well-being, and the core of what they fed their children every day. She felt the collective energy of the group starting to form a powerful wave that could sweep through the school board and break down the walls of indifference. Just then, a message from Sarah, one of the more outspoken parents, shot through the thread. I'm organizing a meeting for next week to discuss our findings and gather stories. We need numbers and personal testimonies to make sure our voices are heard. A rush of determination flowed through Jane. This was what she wanted, a united front. But as she read through the responses, she noticed hesitance mingled in with the enthusiasm. A few parents were wary, fearing backlash from the school or doubting whether they could really make a difference. The tension in the chat was palpable, a bittersweet reminder of the uphill battle ahead. Taking a deep breath, Jane typed a response, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Count me in for the meeting. We can't let fear hold us back. If these meals are affecting our kids, we need to stand up and make sure they know, because who else will? The messages picked up momentum, parents rallying around the idea of raising their voices together. Upbeat messages of solidarity began to fill the chat. The spirit of change started to manifest, igniting hope where uncertainty had lingered only moments before. As the digital conversation deepened, Jane felt a surge of emotions. Her heart soared with the idea of bringing together all the parents. This was a pivotal moment for them to share their concerns, to spark actual change. But what if it wasn't enough? What if the school board dismisses their efforts? Doubt crept back in, and despite the camaraderie blooming in the chat, Jane's apprehensions gnawed at her. Just then, her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a direct message from Sarah. We need someone strong to lead this. I was thinking of you, Jane. You know how to get others inspired. Gulping, Jane felt the rush of recognition and fear collide within her. Could she really be the voice of change? Would she be ready to face the possible consequences of stepping into this role? Determined, yet shaken, she took another breath. This was about more than just lunch programs, it was about their children's future, and she couldn't let fear stand in the way. As she turned back to her laptop, another message flashed from Sarah. Let us get on a video call tomorrow to strategize. Are you in? Compelled by the call to action but overwhelmed by the weight of leadership, Jane typed a simple, yes. And with that, the path ahead felt both exhilarating and terrifying. What if taking the lead meant uncovering something she wasn't prepared for? The sense of possibility danced in the air, but so did the shadows of doubt. What awaited her in tomorrow's call? Would she be ready to embrace the role that could change everything? Jane tossed and turned in her sleep, her mind racing with thoughts about the meeting. Each rotation in bed only deepened the apprehension she felt, and the weight of responsibility settled heavily on her chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a discussion, it was a movement. The next morning, with bleary eyes and a racing heart, she woke up to the sound of Timmy and Lily arguing over cereal. Their bickering brought a smile to her face despite her nerves. They were innocent, blissfully unaware of the battles their parents were about to wage on their behalf. After a quick breakfast, Jane set her laptop on the kitchen table, her palms sweaty against the cool surface, as she waited for the call to start. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, she replayed the messages in her head. It was funny how quickly camaraderie formed when fears met purpose. The parents were ready, she realized. They needed someone to steer them, and it seemed they were looking to her. Would she be able to inspire and rally them when the moment came? The video call pinged to life, and Jane took a deep breath. Sarah was the first to appear, her usual bright smile lighting up the screen. "Hey everyone. Thanks for joining." Her enthusiasm radiated through the small window. One by one, the faces of other parents filled the screen, some smiling nervously, while others wore resolute expressions. "Let's jump right in," Sarah said, pulling up a document on her screen. "We need to get organized. Who has taken a look at the nutritional guidelines?" Hands shot up. Jane felt a swell of pride as stories poured in. Parents shared their children's reactions to lunch, emphasizing behavioral changes and physical symptoms. Each account connected like puzzle pieces, forming a larger picture shaped by common ground. When it was Jane's turn, her voice came out stronger than she felt. "I gathered some information on ultra-processed foods. It's astonishing how much these meals impact our kids' health. The additives, the sugar, they're like ticking time bombs." From the corner, she noticed a father, Dan, nodding vigorously. "Exactly. My son was bouncing off the walls after lunches. Who knew it could be the food?" The energy shifted, fueled by a shared outrage that seemed to pulse through the screen. As Sarah took notes and guided the discussion, Jane felt a flicker of hope. This united front could be more than just a small group complaint, it could grow and snowball into real change. The meeting unfolded energetically, with laughter when parents shared stories until they addressed their ultimate fear, the school board. "We have to prepare for backlash," one mother warned. Her voice trembled slightly, compelling attention. "What if they dismiss our concerns? What if they push back against us?" The room fell silent, each participant reflecting on the implications. Jane's mind raced. Had she assumed they'd be welcomed with open arms? Pressure mounted around her as she started to vocalize her thoughts. "We have to be strategic. If there's pushback, we'll need to gather more evidence and testimonies, not just from our kids, but from experts too." A palpable intensity filled the call as parents began sharing strategies to confront the school board. They proposed making flyers, gathering petitions, and contacting local health advocates. This wasn't just a fight for better lunches anymore. It was about their kids' well-being and the right to demand answers from the system. Sarah leaned into the camera, eyes sparkling with determination. "Let us meet again in a few days and refine our plan. We can create an action group." Jane felt her heart thud. What if they really could do this? What if they were the change? As they wrapped up the call, Jane sat back in her chair, grappling with a mix of exhilaration and fear. She had stepped into a role she never anticipated and felt the weight of expectation settling upon her. Would they really follow through? Could she be the one to carry their collective hopes and fears into the light? Drained yet fiery, she quickly typed a message to the group, the words flowing from her heart. "Together, we can do this. And we will." What lay ahead felt monumental. The stakes were high, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was unfolding. As she closed her laptop, a wave of uncertainty washed over her once again. What if the school board didn't take them seriously? What if they were up against too many walls? Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, and Jane could only brace herself. Would they emerge as a voice strong enough to seek change, or would they be silenced before the battle truly began? As Jane walked into the morning sun, the cool air brushed against her skin. She took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of fresh coffee from the nearby cafe. Her mind was still buzzing with thoughts from the meeting, but now she felt a sense of urgency fueling her steps. The world felt different, somehow sharper, more vibrant. What if they really could make a difference? Timmy and Lily were already in their shoes, ready for school, their excitement about the day lifting Jane's spirits. "Mom, can we go to the park after school?" Timmy asked, his face lit up with a hopeful grin. "Of course, buddy," she replied, ruffling his hair. A simple moment, but it anchored her, reminding her why she was fighting. They were her inspiration. The morning flew by in a blur. After dropping the kids off, Jane turned her focus to the task ahead. She spent the afternoon researching, delving deeper into health studies, forming a strategy and drafting a presentation for their next meeting. As the hours crept by, her coffee cup emptied several times, each refill fueling her determination. Then a notification pinged on her phone. Sarah had sent a message about the upcoming group meeting. "We need to prepare for tough questions," Sarah wrote. "Let us share some key data we can use during our meeting with the school board." Jane felt a rush of adrenaline. They could prepare. She felt the team building again, each parent bringing what they had to the table. With newfound energy, she typed back her thoughts, outlining key points to address. Heart racing, she begged her fingers to move faster as her thoughts tumbled out: statistics, expert quotes, personal stories. The afternoon melted into evening, and Jane still hadn't seen the kids. She finally stepped away from her laptop, stretching her achy limbs. The clock read 6 p.m., the kids would be home soon. But she felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. This was more than a project. It felt monumental, as if their voices could alter the very fabric of their community. Later, as they gathered around the dinner table, Jane remained lost in thought. "Everything all right, Mom?" Lily asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Yes, sweetie, just thinking about tomorrow," Jane said, her heart full. "Are we gonna have pizza at the park?" Timmy chimed in, eyes wide. "Absolutely." Jane smiled, the chatter about food pulling her back into the moment. But in the back of her mind, doubt flickered. Would they face a wall of resistance when they finally presented their findings? What if the board brushed them off, as if their concerns were mere whispers against the roar of institutional indifference? Later that night, as Jane tucked the kids in, she lingered in their room, the soft glow of their nightlight creating warm shadows. "Hey, you two," she whispered, "what's one thing you love about school?" Timmy pondered for a moment, the innocence of childhood reflecting clearly. "I love recess," he said with a yawn, "but I hate the pizzas we get. They taste weird." "Yeah, they're gross," Lily added, wiggling under her blanket. Jane's heart weighed heavy with this revelation. Their voices, their everyday experiences, echoed the stories she had heard in the meeting. She tucked them in, her resolve strengthening. These kids deserved better. Once downstairs, Jane sank into the couch, overwhelmed yet resolute. Could they confront the school board? Every fiber of her being screamed yes, but she felt the quiver of uncertainty. What if they didn't believe in her as much as she believed in them? As she stared at the closed laptop, her heart thumped with anticipation. The moment of truth was approaching, and she could almost feel the weight of those questions pressing down on her. Would she rise to the occasion, or falter under pressure? As the clock ticked closer to midnight, a message flashed across her phone. It was Dan, sharing the latest feedback from parents about the meal program. "Things are heating up," he wrote. "Are we ready?" Her fingers hovered over the screen for a moment, and then she typed back, "We will be." But would that be enough? What revelations awaited them at the meeting? The answer loomed just around the corner, taunting her like the unknown that it was. The morning sun broke through Jane's curtains, casting a warm glow across her bedroom. Today was the day. She felt the nervous flutter in her stomach, reminding her of the importance of the upcoming meeting. With each tick of the clock, the urgency built up inside her, growing deeper and fiercer. She rolled out of bed and headed to the kitchen, starting a pot of coffee. The smell filled the room, a comforting aroma that sparked memories of calm mornings with the kids. Timmy burst into the kitchen, his hair messy and his eyes still bleary with sleep. "Can we have toast, Mom?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. "Of course, buddy." "Just a minute," Jane replied, grateful for the normalcy of breakfast. She flipped some slices of bread into the toaster, enjoying their chatter as they prepared for the day. When Lily came in, she was wearing her favorite shirt, a bright blue one adorned with cartoon animals. "Did you remember about pizza in the park today?" she reminded eagerly. "Absolutely. After the meeting, we'll have the best pizza ever," Jane promised, her own spirits lifting as she thought of those simple moments of joy. Once the kids were off to school, Jane took a deep breath and prepared for her day. She reviewed her notes, each point solidifying her belief in their cause. Yet, amidst the determination, shadows of doubt flickered at the edges of her mind. What if their research failed? What if they couldn't convince the board to hear their voices? At noon, Jane met with Sarah and Dan at a small cafe. They huddled around a corner booth, laptops open, poring over data and refining their presentation. The atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. "Okay, we need to stay focused. Those statistics about health impacts are powerful," Sarah stated firmly, her palms tapping rhythmically on the table. "But remember, it's not just about numbers, it's personal stories that will resonate." Jane nodded, inspired by the fervor in Sarah's voice. They shared anecdotes from parents, detailing their children's struggles with the school lunches. Each story painted a vivid picture, making their mission feel more urgent. As the minutes passed, the cafe began to fill with the lunchtime crowd. Jane could hear snippets of laughter from nearby tables, yet she felt cloaked in a kind of solemn intensity. This was more than just about food, it was about children's futures and the small, everyday choices that could change their lives. When they finished their preparations, Jane's heart raced at the thought of their presentation. Would anyone listen? Would they have the courage to speak against the complacency of the school board? "Let us do this," she said, a quiet fire igniting within her. Sarah and Dan exchanged glances, a look of solidarity. Before they left, Jane took a moment to glance around the cafe, filled with families enjoying their meals. Their laughter echoed in her ears, weaving through her doubts like a lifeline. Each smile was a reminder of what was at stake. Arriving at the school, the building loomed in front of her, vast and intimidating. She could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on her, but as she stepped inside, she steadied her breath. Gathering with the other parents, the room buzzed, voices mingled with nervous laughter. As they waited for the school board to enter, Jane took a moment to glance at her phone. A message from Timmy flashed on the screen. "Are we still getting pizza?" Her smile returned, warmth blooming in her chest. "Yes, buddy. We are going to have the best time." But just then, the school board members entered the room, and the atmosphere shifted. Their stern faces didn't radiate excitement or curiosity. Jane felt her heart drop, and as they settled into their seats, she realized how vulnerable she felt standing in front of them. Would they truly see the passion behind her words? As she took a deep breath, ready to speak, a thought struck her. What if she shared her children's stories, the same stories that had resonated in the cafe? Would that make a difference? As she opened her mouth to begin, the board's chair leaned forward with a question that sent chills down her spine. It was a question she feared but secretly hoped would be asked. "Why do you think our current meal program isn't working?" he prompted, his voice loud and clear. Jane's pulse quickened. "Because our children deserve better," she declared, her voice shaky but rising above the doubt. But little did she know, the stark truth hidden in the school's food program was about to be unveiled in ways she had never anticipated. Jane stood before the school board, a mix of determination and vulnerability coursing through her veins. The weight of countless parents' hopes rested on her shoulders, alongside the burdens of her own children's well-being. Because our children deserve better, she declared, her voice reverberating through the room, cutting through the tension. The moment hung in the air, electrifying and raw. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the small crowd of parents behind her, bolstering her resolve. As she continued, weaving in the personal stories she had collected, Jane could see their expressions shift from skepticism to curiosity. Each anecdote painted the struggles faced by children who had been fueled by cheap, processed meals. She described Timmy's lethargy, Lily's discomfort, and echoed the sentiments shared by parents who felt unheard, battling a system that seemed indifferent. One board member raised an eyebrow, a slight frown gripping his lips. "What evidence do you have to support your claims?" At that moment, Sarah stepped up beside Jane, confidence radiating off her. "We've compiled data from over 100 parents sharing similar experiences with their children." As she gestured towards the stack of papers and documents laid out on the table, Jane's heart swelled with admiration. The board members shifted in their seats, the whispers of concern intensifying. Dan, who had been silently supportive until now, jumped in. "If you look at the health reports and studies, you can see the alarming rates of obesity and behavioral issues that have spiked alongside the rise of ultra-processed foods." His voice erupted with passion, and Jane's spirit soared, feeling the weight of unity behind a common cause. As they shared strategies, alternative meal plans, and evidence of achievable change, Jane witnessed the board's initial rigidity begin to thaw. She looked into the eyes of her fellow parents and felt a shared determination swell between them, a bond forged from late-night group chats, heart-to-heart conversations, and an unwavering mission to protect their children. Movement at the end of the table caught her attention. One board member, a woman with kind eyes and a soft expression, leaned in closer, intrigued. "Jane," she interjected gently, "what would you suggest we do about the current meal program?" The question hung in the air, a lifeline tossed amid the evolving storm. Jane felt her heart thump loudly in her chest. "Let us work together. Let us create a task force involving parents that can consult with nutritionists, local farmers, and chefs. We can redesign a meal plan based on real, wholesome ingredients. We can establish community gardens, cooking classes, even meal prep workshops. It's time our children learned about real food." The room buzzed. The energy shifted. One by one, people began nodding, the tension morphing into enthusiasm and excitement. A parent from the back echoed, "Let us do that. My family can help with the gardening." Another added, "We can host tastings to get kids involved and excited." Jane felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. This was the moment she had fought for, a connect-the-dots moment of community spirit gathering momentum, blazing towards a common solution. As she looked around, she could almost hear the groaning silence of the battle they all had fought alone, now transforming into a powerful chorus of hope. As the meeting drew to a close, plans solidified, and commitments were made. The board members, visibly moved by the outpouring of passion and ideas, extended invitations for future discussions. Afterward, as Jane stepped out into the sun-kissed air, a buoyant freedom surged within her. She felt the warmth radiating off the pavement beneath her feet, echoing the warmth rising in her spirits. This was pivotal. Later that evening, Jane arrived home, greeted by the raucous laughter of Lily and Timmy. The kids pounced into her arms, their joy palpable. She felt the bubbling excitement in the atmosphere as she announced, "Guess what? We're about to make a big change in our school meals. You're going to help me plant a garden." The kids shrieked in delight, eyes shining bright with anticipation for what was to come. As she tucked them into bed that night, she leaned in and whispered, "I'm so proud of you both. Together, we can do amazing things." She kissed them goodnight, her heart full. With the shadows of doubt receding, Jane realized that this moment was just the beginning, the dawn of a new era, unearthing possibilities that stretched far beyond the dinner table. Feeling energized and resolute, Jane took out her phone and shot one quick message to the parent group. "We did it. Here's to new beginnings and healthy futures for our kids. Let us keep this momentum rolling." The responses flooded in, excitement palpable through each line that crossed her screen. Messages danced throughout the evening, igniting an electrifying charge of community spirit that would push them all forward. This wasn't just about food, it was about hope, unity, and transformation, a reminder that when voices come together, they create change. So, if you felt inspired by Jane's journey, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories, the next transformation that could change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, boost this message, and help others find their voice too. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, share how you relate and what change means to you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real change begins with you. Let us keep this movement alive.